time she had intercourse with her partner, had a bladder infection. So I don't know whether that was something which was specific to this lady, or it is something which can happen, in other ladies as well. Sometimes it can happen because if the guy has an infection and comes and has intercourse with his partner, that can aggravate actually the infection in the vagina. So yes, it can happen that way.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah, thank you. Some of these comments and some of the questions we have. So so I'm gonna read all of them. So does a good doctor absolutely see a role that psychologists can play in infertility in Kenya? Is there any psychological care given to individuals who are infertile and seeking ART avenues to conceive? That's one. Asante sana Rosie for your question to Dr. Very interesting ones. Glad that you're doing okay. Is it true that some women that some men's sperm, actually maybe make it general, men's sperm can throw off the pH of a woman's vagina? And how is that related to yeast infection and BV? The other one is atawambia BV ni nini? Most of us know this procedure is
bacterial vaginosis.
I can't even pronounce it, but thank you. What are the legalities, environment, including the procedural cost? I think Elolota, can you please clarify that? Then he goes on to say, hii ni mambo ya watu wa Runda. The people are able to afford.
No, but that's true.
That's
unfortunately.
True. Kindly touch on this topic, some of the trackers. I think Diaspora is talking to...
No, Diaspora had a question, which was the trackers in the United States don't sit on the engines. They're separated from the operators as opposed to the trucks in Europe and the rest of the world. But they have issues with food and other challenges. So I guess, it was just back to that question of the trackers.
Then Slay says, I switched to taking herbal supplements. To my surprise, my periods became regular. But before this, it was so irregular. Slay, would be nice if you can tell us what herbal supplements you're taking.
So we start with which question?
We start with, I know that too many. Let's start with the pH.
Yes.
And then we'll go to the psychologist.
Okay. Now,
hold on.
Okay.
In addition to Slay's question, and then I'll get off the line because I have a boatload. Dr. mentioned elevated levels of androgens, which also lead to high skin sensitivity and low egg quality in women. So I just want to know what treatments are available for those women who struggle with that issue. And I just wanted to also mention that my grandmother, who is 100 plus years old, she's really sick right now. She was a village midwife, and she gave me a herbal supplement one time for my very, very painful periods. And I'd like to mention that worked. But that's a story for another day. And lastly, and I promise I'm getting off the phone, Ruth Kilungu.
Yes.
Ile mambo ya pombe na wa Kenya is a real deal. 1 liter is nothing. If you doubt me, ask OneMic. Anajua story yetu. Kwaherini. And thank you, Dr. Omanwa.
I think that needs another
great
episode.
Information.
Yeah. I think that needs another episode. But doctor,
carry on, sir. Okay.
pH psychologist.
pH psychologist. Okay. With the psychologists, absolutely. Actually, we need to have the psychologists because, first of all, the process itself is very emotional for the ladies most of the time. The men, we are removed because we are not the ones getting the injections. We are not the ones being taken to theater for egg collections. We are not the ones, having a transfer done. We are not the ones who are saying, Allah, the test is negative. Sawa sawa. So it's, I think it's very important. Do we have psychologists who do this? There are a few of them. And are there psychologists in every clinic? No, there are no psychologists in every clinic. Even in the UK where I worked, there were no psychologists in every clinic. The psychologists would come in when we were doing an embryo transfer from, let's say, donated embryos or a surrogate. Then the psychologist actually came in and did an assessment. Okay, so yes, there is a lot of room for improvement in that respect. The issue of pH is there sometimes some men who can throw, quote unquote, throw off the pH in the vagina. God has created it in a very wonderful way, in the sense that in the vagina the pH is acidic, very acidic. The pH in sperm is actually alkaline. When they meet, it becomes neutral, so that the sperm can be able to swim and get to where it does. Now, yes, it does happen that some ladies, after having intercourse, they do actually have some infection. And I've met a patient who, every time she had intercourse with her partner, had a bladder infection. So I don't know whether that was something which was specific to this lady, or it is something which can happen, in other ladies as well. Sometimes it can happen because if the guy has an infection and comes and has intercourse with his partner, that can aggravate actually the infection in the vagina. So yes, it can happen that way.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah, thank you.
All right. What? So there was another question too that came on the like on the comments. Was it from Viola or?
She mentioned, I think she asked about androgens, elevated androgens.
Androgens.
And what can be done.
And what is that?
And androgens are basically male hormones.
Okay.
The testosterone is a male hormone. Estrogen, progesterone, these are female hormones. Now, with the male hormones, there can be, women have male hormones and men have a small amount of female hormones as well. Now, the issue becomes a problem when the male hormones are slightly more than where they're supposed to be. So first of all, even before treating the androgens, because we don't treat the androgens, we want to find out what the problem is. What is the cause of these androgens being elevated? One of the causes that actually leads to androgen elevation is what we call polycystic ovarian syndrome, where the biochemistry in the ovaries is not doing what it is supposed to do, and you have this elevated androgens as one of the signs. And the secondary, impact, you may have these women have, for example, the skin is very has a lot of acne. They may have hair where it's not supposed to be. The upper lip, they may have a beard, they may have hair around their nipples and so on. This is actually a problem which affects about 10% of all the women who have an issue with infertility, especially the younger ones. So that one is a completely different kettle of fish, as it were, and it is addressed differently. You may have what is called a tumor, testosterone secreting tumors, and this will increase the level of androgen in the body, amongst other things. So we need to find out what the problem is first of all before we start treating it.
Okay. So it's something that needs to be
diagnosed.
It's a process, It's not just something that you can pinpoint and this is what needs to happen.
Yeah.
Now,